If you're over 70, this isn't just another video. It's a gentle mirror held up to your life. Because the truth is, you've survived what many never could. Heartbreak, uncertainty, sacrifice, and you're still here. But sometimes the hardest part isn't what we've endured. It's what we keep carrying long after it's time to let go. What if happiness at this stage of life isn't about holding tighter, but finally releasing what's been weighing you down? Stay with me, because the next few minutes might just unlock the peace you've been quietly craving for years. First of all, let me learn about the truth about this chapter of life. If you've reached 70 years of life or more, you are, by every definition of the word, a survivor. Not just of age, but of eras, of moments that would have broken others, of decades of quiet endurance. You've seen the world through so many lenses, some beautiful, some brutal. You've held hands at hospital beds. You've made tough choices for your family when no one else would. You've stayed strong in silence, and you've smiled through pain that no one ever saw. And yet, you're still here, still breathing, still learning, still waking up to a world that may not always understand what you've lived through. But that's trying to catch up to the wisdom written in your bones. That alone is extraordinary. But here's a gentle truth. If no one's told you this recently, you don't have to keep carrying all of it. All the weight, all the expectation, all the memories, mistakes, losses, fears, all the pressure to stay the same person you were 20, 30, or 40 years ago. You've earned the right to let some things go, to set them down, not in defeat, but in freedom. Because the truth is, happiness after 70 isn't about how much more you can add. It's about what you're finally allowed to subtract. What do I mean by that? Think of your life like a house. You've spent decades filling it with people, dreams, stories, love, laughter, heartbreak, lessons. Some of those things are still beautiful. Some of them have become clutter. You don't need every box in the attic anymore. You don't need every opinion from someone who's never walked in your shoes. You don't need every regret to follow you into this next chapter. You need space. Space for joy. Space for stillness. Space for new memories. But you can't open your arms to peace if your hands are clenched around everything you're afraid to release. This chapter is sacred. It's quieter than the ones before it, but it's not empty. It's full of potential. It's the chapter where you stop proving, stop pleasing, stop pretending, and start simply being honest, being gentle with yourself, being free from expectations that no longer fit your spirit. This is the season where you don't just exist, you inhabit, where the loud voices fade and your own voice gets to sing again. In this video, we're going to gently walk through 8 things you can release right now, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, that can bring instant happiness into your daily life. These aren't rules, they're invitations, from one soul to another. Some may challenge you, some may feel like home, but all of them come from love, from what we've learned about aging, about joy, about reclaiming peace. So stay with me and ask yourself, not what am I losing, but what am I finally allowed to put down? Because what's on the other side of letting go is something deeply, beautifully new. Let's begin. The first, let go of the need to be who you used to be. Let's start with something tender, something that tugs at the heart before we even say it aloud. Have you ever sat on the edge of your bed, looked at your reflection in the mirror, and thought, I used to be stronger. I used to move faster. I used to matter more. I used to be better. It's okay, you're not alone. We all look back at the people we once were. But here's the difference. Reflection is healing. Regret is not. Where that voice comes from, that inner voice that whispers, you're not what you used to be. It doesn't come from truth. It comes from a world obsessed with youth, from magazines, media, conversations that glorify what's behind us and overlook what still lies ahead. But here's what they don't tell you. Your strength today doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from what you've lived through. Let me tell you about real story, Jean's awakening. Jean was 73. She used to be a marathon runner. Photos of her crossing finish lines hung in the hallway of her home. Sun-kissed, arms raised, medals around her neck. But after 2 hip replacements, she could barely walk to the end of the block. She stopped going to family events. She avoided the mirror. She felt like a faded version of the woman she once was. Until one spring afternoon, her 9-year-old granddaughter, Mia, tugged on her hand and said, "Grandma, come outside with me. I want to show you something." Jean sighed but followed. Mia led her to the garden, where butterflies fluttered through the air like gentle spirits. They sat for an hour, just watching. No running, no pressure, no proof needed. And in that quiet moment, Jean said something she hadn't felt in years. "I realized I didn't need to be the woman who ran races anymore. I could be the woman who teaches a child to notice beauty." That was her turning point. The illusion of used to be. Here's something to hold on to. You are not less because your body has changed. You are not less because you move slower. You are not less because your days are quieter. You are more seasoned, more wise, more present. The danger of holding on too tightly. When we grip the identity of who we used to be, we leave no space for who we're becoming now. We forget to marvel at the present version of ourselves, the one that has endured storms, adapted, matured, softened. You are not a withered version of your past. You are the culmination of everything you've survived, and that deserves celebration. South a gentle practice for the week. Each morning, instead of saying, "I used to be able to," try saying, "Look at what I can still do." Try, "I'm proud of the version of me that made it here." Try, "My value doesn't come from speed, it comes from depth." You're still becoming. Please hear this. Your story is not done. And the most meaningful chapters often come when we stop trying to impress the world and start trying to impress peace into our lives. Let go of the need to be who you used to be. It doesn't mean forgetting her. It means honoring her by becoming the woman or man she always hoped you'd grow into. And now try asking that. Have you struggled with comparing yourself to a younger version of you? Have you found healing in letting go of that expectation? Drop a comment below with number 1 and tell us, what part of your old self are you learning to release? And what are you discovering about who you are now? Your story might help someone else find freedom. And the next, let go of people who drain you. This one may be the hardest of all. Not because it's unclear what needs to be done, but because it can hurt to do it. As we age, our world gets quieter, but also more precious. Every phone call matters, every visitor is a gift, and every hour of peace becomes worth more than gold, which is why, at this stage of life, you must protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. The quiet thieves of peace. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we once loved with our whole hearts. It could be a friend who only calls when they need something, a sibling who competes instead of connects, a grown child who speaks with sharpness instead of softness, or a neighbor who sows negativity into every conversation. These aren't always loud, obvious offenses. Sometimes it's the constant tug on your soul, the subtle dismissal of your feelings, the way they make you feel like you're too much for needing love or not enough for their approval. But here's the truth. You are not required to shrink so that someone else can feel tall. Let me tell you about real story, Charles's quiet decision. Charles was 76 when he made a decision that saved his emotional health. For years, he tried to please his only son, Michael. Charles showed up at every birthday, every graduation, every family dinner. He offered rides, money, help with errands. He walked on eggshells, trying not to say the wrong thing, but every visit ended the same way. Michael correcting him, belittling him, making him feel like a burden instead of a blessing. One day, after a particularly sharp phone call that left Charles sitting on his porch in tears, he had a moment of clarity. He didn't say anything to his son. He didn't argue. He didn't fight for validation. He simply made a decision. I won't spend what little time I have left chasing crumbs of kindness. So Charles stopped calling. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. The new path he found. Instead of pouring into someone who never noticed his heart, Charles redirected his energy. He started volunteering at a local senior center. He brought his old chessboard, set up a table every Tuesday, and started teaching chess to young kids from the community. They loved him. They called him Mr. C and brought him drawings of knights and queens. They told him stories about school and asked him questions about life. And for the first time in years, Charles felt seen, not for what he could give, but for who he was. "I didn't cut my son out of my life," Charles says now. "I just stopped bleeding for someone who never noticed I was hurt." You don't need to cut people off dramatically, but you do need to recognize when someone consistently takes more than they give and leaves your spirit feeling depleted. You are not obligated to answer every phone call. You are not required to sit through conversations that hurt. And you certainly are not too old to choose peace over conflict. You deserve softness, support, and relationships that feel like sunlight, not storms. So a gentle practice for emotional clarity. Ask yourself, who makes me feel lighter when I'm around them? Who makes me feel smaller, drained, or dismissed? Now give yourself permission, without guilt, to create more space for the former, and set loving boundaries with the latter, even if they're family, even if they've been around forever. Let's reflect. Have you ever had to step back from someone you love to protect your peace? If this resonates with you, drop a number 3 in the comments. And if you found freedom on the other side of a difficult relationship, your story could help someone else take their first step toward healing and let go of regret and the stories you tell yourself. Let's sit quietly with this one for a moment, because regret has a way of showing up when everything else is still. In the dark of night, in the middle of a familiar song, when you see an old photo or hear a voice you haven't heard in years. Regret whispers, "You should have tried harder. You should have said it differently. You should have left sooner. You should have stayed longer." But the voice of regret doesn't live in the truth. It lives in the illusion that you could have controlled what you never fully understood at the time. The weight we carry. Most older adults carry at least one regret that quietly steals joy. Maybe it was a broken relationship that never mended, a career path that was abandoned, a dream that went unspoken, a word left unsaid, or a word spoken in anger that couldn't be taken back. But here's the truth that can change your life. Regret can't heal the past, but it can poison the present. Let me tell you about real story. Evelyn's letter. Evelyn, 81, lost her husband 25 years ago. The night before he died, they had a terrible argument. Something silly, really. Something about the lawn and a forgotten anniversary. He left the house frustrated. She didn't say goodbye. That was the last time she ever saw him. For 25 years, Evelyn carried that moment like a stone in her chest. She replayed it every time she heard his favorite song. She whispered apologies into the wind, but nothing softened the weight, until one day her granddaughter, wise beyond her years, sat beside her on the porch and said, "Nana, maybe you should write him a letter." And so Evelyn did, and the healing that followed. She wrote everything she had held inside for 25 years. The guilt, the love, the laughter they never got to share again. Then her granddaughter drove her to the lake where she and her husband had shared their first kiss. Evelyn read the letter aloud. Every word trembled, but came out anyway. When she finished, she folded it in half and let it go into the water. That night, she slept without the stone in her chest for the first time in decades. "I finally feel like I can live again," she told her family. "If you're holding on to something, please hear me. You don't owe your past punishment. You owe your future peace. You don't need to forget what happened, but you deserve to release its grip on you. Forgive yourself. Say what needs to be said, even if only in a letter. Write it, bury it, burn it, read it to the wind. You're not doing this for anyone else. You're doing it for the version of you that still deserves joy." South, why this matters so deeply. Regret isn't just an emotion. It's a story we tell ourselves, over and over again, until we believe it's who we are. But the past isn't who you are. Who you are is who you choose to be today. Let go of the version of the story that ends in sorrow. Write a new chapter. You still have time. Now let's reflect. Have you carried a regret for years that still finds its way into your quiet moments? Have you found healing, or are you still searching? If this touched your heart, drop a number 4 in the comments, or tell us what story you're finally ready to release. You are not the worst thing you've done. You are the most beautiful thing you've survived. And the last, let go of the belief that it's too late. Let's talk about one of the most dangerous lies ever told. And it goes like this. After a certain age, it's too late. Too late to change. Too late to grow. Too late to matter. Too late to start again. This lie is quiet but powerful. It creeps into conversations. I'm too old for that now. I missed my chance. That part of my life is over. But let me ask you this. If you woke up this morning, who told you it's too late to live differently today? Because here's the truth, pure, clear, and sacred. As long as you're breathing, your story isn't finished. Why this lie is so damaging, believing it's too late robs you of your most precious gift. Possibility. It convinces people to stop dreaming, to stop trying, to stay in places, mentally, emotionally, physically, that no longer serve them. But aging isn't the closing chapter. It's the part of the book where the main character finally gets to live on their own terms. When the noise quiets, when the pressure to please fades, when the masks fall off and your truest self has room to speak. Let me tell you about real story, Dennis's new chapter. Dennis was 84 when he discovered something he never knew he needed. He'd always been a numbers guy, retired from accounting, routine-driven, serious. He had never once considered himself creative. But one afternoon, while visiting his granddaughter, he found himself sitting at the kitchen table next to a little paint set. She was painting clouds, and she asked, "Grandpa, want to try?" He said yes, just to make her smile. He picked up the brush, dipped it into blue, and made a shaky line across the paper. He didn't know it then, but that one wobbly line was the start of something new. The unfolding Dennis began painting every day. First trees, then lakes, then quiet faces in the corners of imagined towns. He painted not because he wanted recognition, but because it felt like breathing, like discovering a new language he'd been fluent in all along. At 85, one of his granddaughters submitted his painting to a local senior arts exhibit. He won second place. At 86, he sold 3 more pieces. One to a stranger who said, "This painting makes me feel like I'm home." When interviewed by the local paper, Dennis smiled shyly and said, "I didn't realize I'd spent most of my life forgetting to play." So, it's never too late to. Let's be clear, new doesn't mean massive. It doesn't mean you have to go skydiving or start a company. New can be as simple as picking up an instrument you abandoned 50 years ago, calling someone you haven't spoken to in decades, learning a new recipe and making a mess in the kitchen, planting flowers in a garden that no one else sees, writing a poem and tucking it into your nightstand, forgiving someone who never apologized, saying "I love you" first, going for a walk in a direction you've never taken before. None of these things require youth. They require openness. You are not done. You are not done laughing. You are not done surprising yourself. You are not done forming new memories. You are not done being someone's reason to smile. The belief that it's too late is a door slammed shut by fear. But here's the beautiful thing about doors. You can open them whenever you choose. And if no one's ever told you this before, let me say it clearly. You have not missed your moment. Your moment might be waiting around the corner, wondering when you'll give yourself permission to go find it. Final reflection, the art of letting go to truly live. So let's pause here. Not in sadness, not in regret, but in reverence. Because what we've talked about today isn't just a list of life advice, it's a gentle revolution of the soul. It's about coming home to yourself, about realizing that happiness, peace, and freedom were never out there in the first place. They were inside you, buried beneath layers of obligation, expectation, fear, and noise. And all it takes to uncover them is letting go. Here's what we've let go of today. The pressure to be who you used to be, the need to hold on to people who only take from you, the mental and emotional clutter weighing you down, the fear of aging and what it means, the hope that others will create your happiness, the trap of comparing yourself to the younger version of you, the burden of regret, and the biggest lie of all, that it's too late. Which of these still speaks to you? Which one are you ready finally to release? And a new practice for a new chapter. Here's what I'd like you to try starting tomorrow. When you wake up, sit on the edge of your bed. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths and ask yourself, what can I let go of today? It might be a small frustration, a lingering memory, a fear, a habit, a belief, or simply the idea that you have to be anyone other than exactly who you are today. Let go of one thing, then open your arms wide to whatever joy is waiting to take its place. Now let's talk together. Which of these 8 things are you ready to release? Let your bravery help someone else take the next step toward peace. Before you go, if this video stirred something inside you, please share it. Send it to someone you love, to someone who's stuck, to someone who needs to hear that they're not too old, too late, or too far gone to start again. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because this space is for you, for your growth, for your healing, for your 2nd, 3rd, or 15th chance at joy, where peace becomes your compass, where simplicity becomes your strength, where joy, quiet and bright, becomes your constant companion. You've done enough surviving. Now, it's time to start living. We're rooting for you. With all our heart, dear Seniors Life.